you know? And at any given moment, there can be a slight shift in the economy and they can lose everything.
Give me a signal, show me a sign that there is a life force within you and I to find a way through to you on the other side. Just give me a signal.
Hello guys, welcome to another one of these topic videos where I just want to discuss things that I feel will be relevant to my followers. Whether people disagree or agree, you can just take what you want from what I speak about. See if you can apply this within your own life as well. Coming into 2020, I've been trying to swap out things like music and whatnot whilst listening to music in the car, swapping it out for things like podcasts. When I've been in the house and stuff like that, I've been playing podcasts through Bluetooth speakers, etc. And just trying to really swap out that whole music stuff for more knowledgeable things. And something kind of struck me last week when I was listening to a podcast between Darman and Lewis Howes on the School of Greatness, where it's actually a really interesting podcast. I'd recommend anybody to watch it or listen to it. And it was talking about how when he was coming up to his peak of success, how a lot of what he was doing was really inauthentic. It wasn't really that real and wasn't that transparent. And just talking about how he was living this life and attracting the wrong people to support a version of himself which wasn't actually who he was. And it kind of hit something for me, because I believe that unfortunately this is the kind of generation that we're living in nowadays, where we're basing ourselves on people that actually don't really exist. It's an unrealistic expectation that's being set for all of us to believe that what we're seeing on things like social media is real and it's genuine and authentic, when it's just couldn't be further from the truth. Now, personally, I don't really mind who is rich, who isn't rich, how much money people have got. I don't actually care. It doesn't interest me too much. I kind of stay in my own lane and focus on me and building strong foundations. But what does bother me is when I've got people, messaging me, or when I listen, to the conversations I hear of people where they're comparing themselves to these kind of people. That's what bugs me. The reason why it bugs me is because I know that from my experience with people, that what we see on things like, social media and Instagram and Facebook or whatever it may be is not actually real. It's the 5% superficial side of people's lives that they allow us to see. Okay, and we're all guilty of this. We're all guilty of only showing the best part of us. We don't want to post our stories unless we look good, and especially females, obviously, the filters here and edits and all whatnot and different apps to make us look better. I know that we're all guilty of this, but I wanted to speak today about the real numbers of those that you worship on things like Instagram, and actually just kind of drill down on what's real and what's not real and what's actually happening in the world today. Because mental health and things like that are at their peaks. And I think a lot of this comes down to comparison to others and these unrealistic expectations that we're expected to hit. And it just bugs me, if I'm honest. I'm just freestyling this video, and it's just something that I want to talk about, which I feel like could benefit my followers. Now, on this particular podcast with Darman, Lewis Howes, he speaks about a low point that he was in within his life, where he had the Lamborghinis, had the houses, had the girls, and had this lifestyle that we all believe to be real. But actually, when he speaks about it, he speaks about how none of it was real, how he was struggling to make the car payments, and how actually he ended up following, going down this really deep, dark hole. At the time when Instagram wasn't as big as what it is today, he was actually one of the few that had the most followers. So as you can imagine, back then, having over 1 million followers was like a big deal, and he was one of those people. But yet, even though he had all those followers and all those great pictures of the cars and everything, none of it was real. This is what's so remarkable about this particular podcast, is because none of it was real. And that I think that resonates today with everything else that we see on social media, is that how much of what we see is actually real. Okay, the cars that we see, how much of them are tied up in lease or PCP plans, finance deals that people can't afford. How many people actually own their own homes or are struggling to make the mortgage payments. And, honestly, I've got no disrespect to anybody, that's out here hustling and trying to make their payments. That's fine. But in my opinion, I don't really feel like debt is a good thing unless it's leveraged to make more money. On my journey to where I've got to today, I've never really felt like debt was a good thing to have. I've always kind of made sure that I've kept that minimized. And you know, years ago when I was younger, I used to think debt was cool. I used to think having multiple credit cards and all that kind of stuff was quite a flashy thing. But you know, as time went on, I realized it wasn't. It's just a liability. And like, you know, debt in itself is only, you know, it's only useful if you can leverage it, like business debt or some sort of maybe potentially a mortgage debt or something like that can be leveraged and used to create more income. Now, I think what happens is going down this route of trying to act flashy and trying to, you know, get these kind of these assets as what people believe them to be to make themselves look cool, like these cars and, you know, like flashing on Instagram. What that does is it attracts the wrong kind of people into your life. It attracts a particular crowd of people that support that version of yourself, but that version of yourself isn't the true authentic version of yourself. Now, obviously, there are going to be people out there that really are living the life, okay, and I get that, that's fine, and we're not talking about them kind of people. What I'm talking about is the people that aren't actually living the life but are making out that they are. And I just want you guys to just dig that little bit deeper, be a little bit more skeptical, and not, most importantly, not ever judge yourself off an Instagram picture, off an Instagram caption, or something that someone may perceive to have that actually they don't own, or, you know, is not actually in existence. I think it's easy for us to go on Instagram nowadays and see, you know, a flash car and think, oh my God, my car's, you know, not so great, their car's great. But actually, you might own your car. You know, you might actually have that car, you know, as a 400% in your possession, and the person that you're looking at doesn't even own their own car, you know? And at any given moment, there can be a slight shift in the economy and they can lose everything and become, you know, insolvent or bankrupt or whatever it may be and lose everything. So try not to compare yourself too much, because I think personally the goal in life is to be your true authentic self. Now, the reason why I say this is because if you really are your true authentic self, you might find that you might upset and, you know, pick up quite a few haters from doing that. But as a result of that, you will find 2, 3, 5, 10 people that will really, really, really support you. And it's them people that matter. Those are the people that really, really matter, because, you know, if you've got 100 people and 97 people hate you for who you really are, you're being your true authentic self, but you've got 3 people that really love you, those 3 people are going to be the people that are going to be your ride or dies, that are going to support you, be there for whatever you need them to be there for. And it's those 3 people that you should be focused on, building the tribe that actually really supports your true authentic self. And it's just unfortunate nowadays within this generation, we're in this kind of era right now where everything is fake. Everything is fake. You know, you can get anything nowadays on a payment plan. And how much of that stuff is really real? You know, how many of you are comparing yourselves to, you know, the 5% of other people's lives that you see on Instagram? You know, the superficial 5%. Okay, how many of you are seeing that? And you know, the truth is that if you are your true authentic self, people will, you know, move towards you more because they feel like you're an actual human being. They don't feel like you're just some flash woman or flash guy that doesn't have feelings, that doesn't have struggles, that doesn't have vulnerabilities. You know, it's important to be who you really are and step into who you are, own who you are, and be your authentic self and attract the right people as a result of that, the right women into your life, the right men into your life. You know, so at least then when push comes to shove and, you know, things start going wrong, you know there's people that are going to stick by you anyway, you know, because it's always been who you've really been. Because the problem is that if you're at this peak and this height in life and you have certain things in life that, you know, other people wish that they could have, if it's not even real, the only way you can really go is down. Okay, the only way you can really go is down. Whereas, you know, if you can find people at your lows, the only way you're going to go is up. So I just want people to really focus on not comparing yourselves to other people that you're seeing on social media, not comparing, you know, your 100% to their 5% that you see. And I want you to start trying to be your authentic self and start trying to build a real support base of real people that actually, you know you for who you are, as opposed to projecting a fake version of yourself out to the rest of the world and inviting in the wrong kind of people. Now, just to put a little bit more emphasis on the real statistics in the world, I'm obviously going to focus on the UK here because, you know, the UK is where I'm from and it just makes logical sense. But I've wrote down some statistics here which I believe are interesting, just to put a bit more perspective on who's actually really rich in this world and who's not. Okay, now obviously, as you guys know, there are real people that are rich in the world. And then there's other people that just aren't, and then there's other people that are just pretending that they are, but they're not. Now, I've written down a few things here on the IFS report, which is a UK report. To actually make the top 1% in the UK, you only have to be earning 120 grand a year. So anything over 120 grand a year as a UK taxpayer puts you in the top 1% of the UK, believe it or not. And to actually get into the top 5%, you only need to be making over £70,000 per year. And to get in the top 10%, you only need to be making over £51,000 per year, which is incredible. The median average of the UK taxpayer is 22,000. So really, you only need to be making like sort of double that, which you could quite easily achieve. I'll do another separate video on how to increase your incomes, you know, side hustles. But to be honest, you know, you don't even need to be making that much to get into the top 10%, just anything over £51,000. And to get into the 0.1% club, so that's the top 0.1% of the whole of the UK taxpayers, you need to be earning over £650,000 per year. So obviously 650,000 is quite a bit per year. It's not impossible. It's quite a big milestone from 22,000 as the median for the UK taxpayer, but it's certainly achievable. But it's not achievable if you keep, you know, waking up every morning, jumping on Instagram and seeing some douchebag in his car that he doesn't own, living this flashy lifestyle, and you feeling, you know, shit about yourself because you're comparing yourself to some guy you've not even met. So this can be achieved over £650,000 per year, but it can't be achieved if you're, you know, putting these unrealistic expectations and these kind of limitations on yourself. So only half of the top 1% in 1 year will actually be at the top 1% in 5 years' time. So basically, if you've hit the top 1% within the UK, which is over £120,000 per year, most people that hit that and become in the top 1% will not actually be there in 5 years. So to sustain that kind of income and that wealth, over 50% of people are not there in 5 years. So 12.8 trillion of the wealth in Britain, which is made up of property, private pensions, physical and financial, basically 4.6 of that, or 4.6 trillion, is made up of property. 5.3 trillion is made up of private pensions. So pensions can't be touched anyway until you're like sort of over 50, generally speaking, on a private pension. So that's locked up money that you can't actually get access to. And the 4.6 in property, again, another situation where, you know, people would argue with me about property in the sense that, you know, property is the way to go, etc., etc. But the reality of it is that if you're buying a house and you need to live in that house, you could sell it, but you'd have to buy a house cheaper than the house that you're living in to actually make a profit. You know, it's very much like a pair of shoes, right? You buy a pair of shoes because you need a pair of shoes, and your shoes are worth, you know, say £100. But, you know, unless you sell those shoes and then you buy another pair of shoes for 50, then you're only £50 up. At the moment, yeah, you've got £100 pair of shoes on, but they're only worth it if you sell them, and then you can buy a cheaper pair, like a coat or anything. Yeah, anything in life, like my watch is worth X amount, but it's only worth it if I sell it and then I just pocket the cash and I don't buy another watch. But I like having a watch, so therefore I'm going to have to buy another watch. And it's like with a house, like it's all good having £500,000 in a house, but you still need to buy another house if you sell that house. So, you know, what I'm trying to say is 4.6 trillion of the 12.8 trillion wealth in Britain is property, and that's money that's locked up in bricks and mortar. I mean, obviously that can be used as collateral to buy the properties, etc. That's a whole different conversation. But what I'm trying to say is 5.3 trillion and the 4.6 in property is locked up. It's not accessible. It's only 1.2 trillion that's actual physical within people's pockets. So it's not really that much, really, relative to the other amounts. 21 to 30-year-olds have an average of 2,000 in wealth. So 21-year-olds to 30-year-olds have an average of £2,000 in wealth. That's accessible wealth, that's physical. With 61 to 70-year-olds being the wealthiest, but which makes sense because obviously they're at the end of their career, they've built up private pensions, properties, etc. So obviously they're in a better situation. But believe it or not, all these Instagram traders on Instagram that claim that they're rich, actually the statistics prove differently, because 21 to 30-year-olds, which are predominantly the people that we see on Instagram, are actually the least wealthiest in the UK. So that's quite interesting to read as well. 2,600 is the average credit card debt per household. So that's £2,500. And 48,500 is the average first-time buyer house deposit in 2019. So the average deposit you're going to need to purchase a house is 48,000. Now, obviously going on the basis that the median average of an income is 22,000 in the UK, that's almost twice the yearly income. So that's 2 years of income to just get a deposit to buy a house. Every 4 minutes, a person becomes insolvent or bankrupt in the UK. And one property is repossessed every 1 hour and 40 minutes in the UK. The average adult debt, excluding mortgages and student loans, is £6,936. So the average person in the UK has got 7 grand's worth of debt on things like credit cards, leases, finances, etc. And like I said, I mean, debt in my opinion is bad and less leveraged. I mean, if you can't buy it twice, you can't afford it. And we're living in this fake, superficial world. You've only got to Google where debt's been going since the 1990s to see the graph. It's just pretty much going up. So all I want, if you can take anything from this video, it's a bit of a different video, but it's something that I like to talk about. And I think I'm going to do some more, videos and podcasts about this, is do not compare yourselves to these people that you seem to be worshipping every day that are apparently gods, etc., etc., unless you know it to be true that they're actually living the life that they claim to be living. In my opinion, they're not. And it's something that I'm going to be speaking about more frequently because it's just not what it seems. And it's unfortunate that people are getting themselves caught up in this trap because, as a result of that, people are depressed, they're miserable, they're struggling with things like mental health. And most importantly, it's stopping them. It's stopping them from going on and being great in their own way because they're comparing themselves to somebody else. So I hope you've taken a little bit from this video, and it's something I'm going to be speaking about more in the future. And also I'll be doing a video as well on how to boost your income, increase your income as a side hustle outside of obviously your general job or business.